Within the past year and a half, I've been doing most of my streaming through the Nintendo Switch. I know this may seem a little bit late to talk about, considering it's been 2 years since release, but I wanted to give my perspective as someone who hasn't been focusing too much on video games as of recent, and only since playing the system have I been able to find myself slowly coming back within time. While the main conversation is between Xbox One and the PS4, I was looking for something that was going to provide the Hulu Live feature, and the Xbox One was the only one that was providing it. This decision changed, however, when Nintendo announced that the Switch was not only going to be getting Hulu as its first streaming app, but the Live TV feature as well. Since then, the Switch has adopted YouTube and the upcoming Disney Plus for streaming services, but Hulu has been what the system's main use has been for. The JoyCons are also fantastic, something that even my brother-in-law complimented on, and he's got big hands himself. I bought the version that came with the neon blue left and the neon red right. Unfortunately, the blue Joy-Con eventually got a dead spot in the stick, so I bought a spare green and pink set to hold me over until I fixed the blue one. Thankfully, the Hulu app only needs the right Joy-Con, since it's not only the one you both scroll and select buttons with, but it also has the return home button just in case. I found it similar to what the Wii U was trying to do with its updated system by using wireless controllers that didn't need point sensors as controllers, but the only downside was the gamepad's battery life was very short. The batteries on the Joy-Con, however, are fantastic, and even my aunt says it's so much easier than using a TV remote. The portability mode also gives a large perimeter to where I can carry a show I'm watching into the next room, and only limit myself to the Wi-Fi as opposed to the Wii U's gamepad only being limited by the console's distance. As for the portability and the battery, it's okay, but I feel like it could be updated a little bit better, unless I get one of those spare adapters. But the one thing that makes the Switch so damn great is the versatility in controllers. I have used the Pro-Con controller at my brother's, but the closest equivalent that I own is the Crash Bandicoot wired controller from PowerA. Normally this would sell for about $15 to $25, but I got this as part of a bundle of the Insane Trilogy port for Switch, and for about $50, it was only 10 more than what the game regularly was, so how could I go wrong with that? You can also use the Wii U's GameCube controller adapter and have it read like a PowerA controller as well. Even with the Mayflash adapter that I bought off of Amazon years ago, it still works just as good. There are all kinds of different interesting third-party substitutes and adapters you can find, especially one that could turn your DualShock 4 controller into a charging Pro-Con. Yeah, who would have thought? Playing Nintendo games with a Sony controller. It's every nerd's dream. The first game that I bought for the Switch was Super Bomberman R. The franchise has always been a childhood favorite of mine, and to see it finally return to modern-day consoles was definitely a welcomed return. I know a lot of people think it's a little bit too simple, but for me, I found it just as satisfying, especially with the multiplayer. And while Breath of the Wild still remains a game I have yet to play, I just recently beat Super Mario Odyssey, and not only that, but the Switch also gives the possibility for me to also check out other AAA titles on a Nintendo console that wouldn't normally be seen there. My favorite game for the Switch so far has been Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Who would have thought that crossing over one of Nintendo's flagship franchises with these stupid little minion predecessors from Rayman could end up being one of the most addictive strategy games in recent memory? Even the DLC with Donkey Kong is just as good, and honestly, I wish they do more of that soon. As for ports, the big ones that I ended up buying were the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, LA Noire, The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth, and the Crash Insane Trilogy, like I said, adding to the variety that the system is capable of getting. I mean, think about it. You also have Sonic the Hedgehog and Crash Bandicoot on the same Nintendo console. That would have blown any 90s kid's mind 20 years ago, if you ask me. Not to mention, with the release of Smash Bros. Ultimate out, maybe we'll be ending up seeing Crash and Cuphead end up as DLC as well. And while I wish the eShop would include more retro titles, like they did on the Virtual Console, as opposed to the NES Online service they have, I'm glad that we do have a lot of indie titles and a few games that do make up for it. The only exception I do have is with the HD ports of the Resident Evil franchise they have available. There hasn't been much talk about the remake of 2, or even a full version of Resident Evil 7 having a release in North America yet. Not even word of the cloud version that was a Japan-exclusive experiment. Plus, look at the price tag for these things. $30 for each on the eShop and $60 for the Origins on physical? It's not even both games on the same cartridge. And comparing to the copies on PS4, look, they could go for about $10 to even $40 less than what I'm getting on the Switch. So What exactly am I missing besides the portability that's making it so damn expensive? While I have been aware of the ports of Wii U games coming to the console, the only one that I actually immediately traded in was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so that way I could play online with my family. I'm perfectly happy with my Wii U and the collection that I have, as there are still some exclusives that are kept on there, such as Wind Waker HD, Pikmin 3, and The Wonderful 101. As much as I would love to get the ports of Bayonetta 2, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and Hyrule Warriors, unless they're gifted to me or I don't own any of them, I don't intend on getting any of them anytime soon. I'm especially cautious because after playing the demo for Yoshi's Crafted World on the Switch, I found myself coming back towards its Wii U predecessor, Woolly World, which I'm taking my time with more in a second playthrough. The only big downside that I have with the Switch, aside from the lack of retro console games, is where are the other streaming apps set to launch on the Switch? Sure, the Smart TV still has the rest of their apps functioning, but what about the Switch itself? Amazon Prime and Netflix have yet to make an announcement if they're compatible yet, and with more networks starting to switch from TV to streaming such as HBO, Showtime, and Boomerang, we're going to need companies to be prepared for how outside gamers are going to use the system. I'm especially surprised considering Amazon owns Twitch and anybody who has a Twitch Prime account automatically qualifies for Nintendo Online services. You would think that they would either put up Twitch or Prime Video up first. While I may not be able to play Blu-rays, especially as someone who's more into movies, that's more of a reason why I was considering the Xbox One. But now that I have my Nintendo Switch and Xbox Live and Game Pass are being rumored to possibly be compatible with it, I don't really see myself owning an Xbox One other than as a big 4K Blu-ray player. To wrap this up, I'm definitely happy with my selection. I've got some of the games that I want as a start, and I've got plentiful options for controllers, and the streaming quality is pretty good if you ask me. And with the wirelessness and portability, it makes it the true ideal console to have with you if you're traveling a lot, giving both the 3DS and PS Vita a run for their money. Although then again, the Vita's not saying much. If you're not much of a gamer and you only use your consoles for streaming, then I would probably say wait a little bit until one or two more services pop up, and if there's a price cut. But for the people who play video games above average and beyond, I would say you should definitely be owning this one if you ask me. Not only does it have a great selection of games, but when it comes from going to cable to streaming, this was a pretty good switch.